Look at this scene here. Feels awkward, doesn't it? The lack of space between the characters, the absence of music, no editing. It feels normal, yet abnormal at the same time. As the scene progresses, this family dinner unfolds into pure chaos, and it becomes one of the defining scenes of Japanese cinema in the 80s. But to understand this scene, we need to go back to the start of the film. A quick left-to-right pan of the Morita family as they eat a meal at the same table we were just at before. This dinner table will become the punctuating feature of Morita's 1983 film, The Family Game. At this dinner table, we can find everything that Morita wishes to convey in the film, from the performity of Japan's nuclear family structure to the absurdity of modern life. It's this table that reveals the performance, and it's this table that we're going to talk about today. To understand the impact of The Family Game, you need to understand the context of when it was made. It was released during the height of the post-war economic boom, and the rise of the new modern landscape that post-war Japan had birthed. The image of the ideal Japanese household, the father as the corporate breadwinner, the mother as the homemaker, the children as trophies of excellence, was no longer just a cultural aspiration. It had become a national performance. This was the ideal. It was what every family strived for, but under this performance was a growing dissatisfaction with the relentless need to reach ever-growing expectations of success. In reality, fathers were absent, working themselves into exhaustion. Mothers were expected to remain emotionally neutral, to preserve the image above all else. And children were expected to do everything but be an actual child. It was all to keep up with the growing pressures of expectation. Morita's film investigates this through a veneer of postmodernism and satirical questioning, through a deconstructive lens that aims to reference the rich cultural history of Japanese cinema whilst daring to go beyond the critiques of those that came before him. The film itself tells the story of the Morita family, a seemingly average middle-class household whose carefully managed domestic life begins to unravel with the arrival of a private tutor. Their youngest son, Shigeyuki, is struggling academically. His future, and by extension, their family's reputation, is not meeting the status quo. Enter Yoshimoto, played by Yusaka Matsuda. Hired to fix the problem, Yoshimoto's methods are anything but conventional. What begins as a passive teaching slowly turns into a psychological manipulation, boundary-breaking behaviour, and ultimately a disruption of the family structure. In many ways, this feels narratively in line with Priestley's and Inspector Calls, the image of an unknown figure that infiltrates a family structure and peels back the outward performance to reveal that inner turmoil is a shared motif between these two works. And Inspector Call delves behind closed doors to reveal that the dream middle-class family image is a facade, which is ultimately what Morita's film aims to do as well. Whilst his narrative seems to take a similar approach to an Inspector Call's, it's the stylistic choices that make his film stand out. Morita carefully constructs a film that seems to, on the surface, resemble that of an Ozu film. He's careful to make sure that his film, on the surface, is approachable, but beneath this veneer of simplicity is a nihilistic view. For example, the way Ozu would utilize punctuating shots to break up scenes, often 3 establishing shots unrelated to the sequence before or next. They acted more like punctuation in literature than traditional video editing. They helped build an atmosphere, and they acted like a full stop, or more like an ellipsis. Morita does this same technique, referencing Ozu to punctuate his scenes in a bid to create a surface-level normality and a familiarity for the audience. But unlike Ozu, Morita does not want to celebrate the family structure. He wants to critique it. This is not to say that Ozu was not critical of the family structure, but There was a level of respect present in Ozu's films, a level of conformity to the expectations. He peered beyond the curtain to examine the family unit and Japanese life, but they were often still celebrations of the family unit. They had a sadness and a happiness present that you will not find here in the family game. For example, Tokyo Story is without a doubt critical of Japan's changing culture. They move away from tradition, but it doesn't feel aggressive in its critique. It has a melancholia to its atmosphere, but in the end it's always respectful. Morita does not share this admiration. He uses the same punctuating editing techniques, but his sequences are not framed with the same picturesque view of Japan. For Ozu, the shot composition was everything. The camera often framed the scene to show the beauty in everyday life. A conversational scene for Ozu chose to break the rules of editing to make sure the shot was as beautiful as it could be. This is why there was a level of respect present in his films. Even when the subject matter was critical, the shot chose to elevate it out of negativity. Yet Morita chooses to place his subjects in uncomfortable close-ups, unedited sequences, and ugly frames. Instead of taking the camera a few paces back to reveal the beautiful setup, Morita puts the camera painfully close, as if he is visually stating that he is going to examine the family structure a little closer than Ozu ever did. In many ways, it's a direct statement to the audience. It's Morita telling the audience that this is going to be uncomfortable, that we're going to step into the Ozu frame, step inside it to see what was really happening. Which brings us back to the table. From the opening sequence, we know the table is going to be important, a place where families are meant to spend time together, a ritualistic spot, and in many ways, the true reflection of the ideal middle-class nuclear family. To have all the family present for a meal is often a glamorized notion that many families strive for. It's the image that all adverts show, all sitcoms display, and all films revel in. It's a key cross-cultural image, but for Morita, it's the most performative part of any family's life. From the opening, we have the quick pan of them eating together, but then we are introduced to each character individually. Sitting alone and eating their own meal, it shows the separation. The table is meant to bring them together, and yet it exists as a place of loneliness. The table itself is a bench, where they all sit facing the camera, making it feel more like a theatre set piece than a real table, explicitly showing that they only sit there to put on a performance for the audience. The next time we see the table, we see Numata pretending to be unwell, to avoid going to school, as he rests his head on the table, pleading to his mother that he's ill. Again, the table is used for a performance. The next time we see the table in a scene is when the tutor stays for food with the family. Look at how they all awkwardly squeeze on the table. It reveals how impractical the table is, especially when they all sit facing the camera. The closeness highlights how little they all sit at the table together. It's clearly impractical, but they try to make it work. They force themselves through the discomfort, banging elbows, they're clearly unable to fit, but the performance must carry on. Yoshimoto is a guest, and the family must perform for him. We as the audience know they never really sit together. The performance clearly shows they're uncomfortable living up to this standard, but they must continue. After this scene, the next time we visit the table is when Shikeyuki is hit by Yoshimoto, and he runs out to get help from his mother. The son and the tutor perform a lie, never revealing why his nose is bleeding. Here the family can perform how they need to. The mother showing concern, but they never really try to pry behind the closed doors to see what's really happening. As long as the outward performance happens at the table, then they have done their part. The tutor often gets to pry behind closed doors though. The son's room, the dad's car, he gets to venture beyond the table to see what's really happening. But he's the only character that dares to do it. When the father comes home drunk, he sits at the table to learn of the nosebleed. He acts concerned and makes a grand gesture of going to check in if he's okay. He enters the room where the tutor and the son reside, and instantly his brash demeanour sinks away. At the table, he was able to perform being a dad and act concerned and in control, but now he's stepped behind the closed doors, he can't perform. We as the audience watch the scene awkwardly play out. At the table, he was able to pretend to be a dad, but in reality, he has no clue how to be one. And now we've stepped behind the door to witness it. We see the reality of it. Bit of an annoyance here. They basically keep copyrighting the end scene of this film no matter what I do. So it's going to be pictures from here on out, but go watch the film if you want to watch it. Highly recommend it. But yeah, it's just going to be pictures from now on. Sorry. Then we get to the final scene, the most famous one, the last meal shared between the Morita family in this film. What starts as a seemingly normal dinner slowly falls apart. Yoshimitsu, the tutor, starts to create small disruptions, spilling drinks, throwing food, pushing the boys into fighting. The family's carefully controlled performance begins to break down. But what's more disturbing is the way the parents react, or rather the way they don't react. As the chaos unfolds right in front of them, they sit there still, pretending nothing is happening. And it's here that Morita fully reveals the point of the film. He makes us question what we're actually watching. Is this really happening? Are the parents truly blind to it? Or are they just too committed to the performance to even react? The chaos reveals everything this film needs to reveal. It reveals the cracks in the family, the cracks in society. It breaks down the illusion the family has been trying so hard to maintain. And it breaks our suspension of disbelief in the film. How can they not see this? How can they pretend everything is normal when it's clearly falling apart right in front of them? That's the entire point of this scene and the entire point of the film. Then Yoshimitsu tips the table over, completely destroying one place the family came together. It's not just the end of the dinner, it's the end of the performance. On top of this, throughout the entire film, Morita refuses to use music. Even when diegetic sound should be present, when a radio or TV would normally be playing music, he cuts to silence instead. This silence makes every scene feel even more uncomfortable, even more invasive. It pulls us deeper into the awkwardness, forcing us to sit with it, to live with it. It's another rejection of the Ozu tradition. Where Ozu used music to add warmth and nostalgia, Morita strips everything back to the rawness, and we feel that here in these final moments. No music to tell us what to feel, no editing to tell us where to look. It's just one long, awkward scene. In my opinion, it's one of the most powerful uses of a single take. It's not there for style or to prove the prowess of the crew and the director. It's there to take away the language of cinema and to show only one thing. To show the performance. And there we have it. There's my kind of thoughts and ideas on The Family Game as a whole, as a film. I think it's a really important film that talks about ideas that maybe we've not explored on this channel, and it's a film that I think many people haven't really spoken about or explored in recent times, and I'd love to see it kind of get the kind of attention that I think it deserves. It's a really important film, it's made in a really interesting way. The filmmaking choices, the directorial choices, the acting choices, the performances are all amazing here, and I think it's one of the more interesting films to come out of this period. And compared to some of the other filmmakers that I talk about from the 80s, it's a completely different style of filmmaking as well. The use of no music, the reliance on performance, and the kind of social critiques that it places into the narrative are slightly different than some of the ones that I typically look at. So I think it's kind of interesting for that regard in terms of my journey on this channel, but I think it also comes from the same kind of vein of those other filmmakers, the punk filmmakers and that type of thing. I still think there's a punk energy here to this film that is kind of just explored and tackled in a slightly different way. It wants to critique some of the similar things to filmmakers like Sogo Ishii, as he would go on to do a film similar, but it kind of approaches it in a different way, and I think it's very good for that reason. If you guys have seen this film and you like it, you enjoy it, please leave a comment, let me know what you think about this film. If you haven't seen it and you think it might be good to watch, then let me know as well. As always guys, I really appreciate you guys sticking around. I know I don't make videos that often, but hey, here we are making another one. Hopefully I'll make some more. But in the background I've been working on some interesting things that I'm going to make a video to share with you guys soon. Basically there is other ways to see some of the work that I do. It's not just here on this channel, which I'm going to make a video speaking about anyway. But if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see all those things anyway, or X as it's called now, but probably the best place to keep up with what I'm doing. Anyway guys, if you do like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.